Hopefully this will be our last video. This is still reading from Aesop, and we're on page 38. The Flea and the Man. Once a flea was irritating a man relentlessly, so he caught it and said to it, "Who are you who makes a meal of all my limbs, biting me all over at random?" The flea answered, "That's the way we live. Don't kill me, for I can't do much harm." The man started to laugh and said, "You're going to die now, and at my hands, for however great or small the harm it is imperative to stop you breeding." This fable shows that it is not necessary to take pity on the wicked, however strong or feeble he may be. The Jackdaw and the Ravens. A jackdaw who grew larger in size than the other jackdaws disdained their company, so it took himself off to the ravens and asked if he could share his life with them. But the ravens, unfamiliar with his shape and his voice, mobbed him and chased him away. So rejected by them, he went back to be with the jackdaws. But the jackdaws, outraged at his defection, refused to have him back, and thus he was an outcast from the society of both jackdaws and ravens. It is similar with people. Those who abandon their own country in preference for another are in low esteem there for being foreigners, but despised by their compatriots because they have scorned them. The Man Bitten by a Dog. A man who had been bitten by a dog roamed far and wide, looking for someone to heal his wound. Someone told him all he had to do was wipe the blood from his wound with some bread and throw the bread to the dog which had bitten him. To this the injured man replied, "But if I did that, every dog in the city would bite me." Similarly, if you indulge someone's wickedness, you provoke him to do even more harm. The Sleeping Dog and the Wolf. A dog lay asleep in front of a farm building. A wolf pounced on him and was going to make a meal of him when the dog begged him not to eat him straight away. "At the moment," he said, "I am thin and lean, but wait a little while. My masters will be celebrating a wedding feast. I will get some good mouthfuls and will fatten up and will be a much better meal for you." The wolf believed him and went on his way. A little while later, he came back and found the dog asleep on top of the house. He stopped below and shouted up to him, reminding him of their agreement. Then the dog said, "Oh, wolf, if you ever see me asleep in front of the farm again, don't wait for the wedding banquet." This fable shows that wise people, when they get out of a fix, take care of themselves all the rest of their life. That's a good one. The Dog with a Bell. A dog furtively bit people, so his master hung a bell on him to warn everyone he was coming. Then the dog, shaking his bell, swaggered about in the agora. An old bitch said to him, "What have you got to strut about? You don't wear the bell as a result of any virtue, but to advertise your secret ill nature." The secret spitefulness of boastful people is exposed by their vainglorious behavior. The Wolf and the Lamb. A wolf saw a lamb drinking at a stream and wanted to devise a suitable pretext for devouring it. So although he was himself upstream, he accused the lamb of muddying the water and preventing him from drinking. The lamb replied that he only drank with the tip of his tongue, and that besides, being downstream, he couldn't muddy the water upstream. The wolf's stratagem having collapsed, he replied, "But last year you insulted my father." "I wasn't even born then," replied the lamb. So the wolf resumed, "Whatever you say to justify yourself, I will eat you all the same." This fable shows that when some people decide upon doing harm, the fairest defense has no effect whatsoever. All right, the wolf and the young lamb taking refuge in a temple. A wolf pursued a young lamb who took refuge in a temple. the wolf called out to it and said that the sacrificer would offer it up to the god if he found the lamb there. But the lamb replied, "Oh, well, I would prefer to be a victim of a god than to die by your hand." This fable shows that if one is being driven towards death, it is better to die with honor. The diviner. A diviner was sitting plying his trade in the agora. Suddenly, someone rushed up to him and said that the front door of his house was wide open and the contents gone. The diviner leapt up in consternation and ran home, grasping to see what had happened. A passerby who saw him running called out, "Hey there! You would pride yourself on foretelling the future for others. Can't you foresee what will happen to yourself?" One could apply this fable to people who order their own lives woefully, but who dabble in controlling affairs which are not their concern. The field mouse and the town mouse. A field mouse had a town mouse for a friend. The field mouse invited the town mouse to dinner in the country. When he saw that there was only barley and corn to eat, the town mouse said, "Do you know, my friend, that you live like an ant? I, on the other hand, have an abundance of good things. Come home with me, and I will share it all with you." So they set off together. The house mouse showed his friend some beans and bread flour, together with some dates, a cheese, honey, and fruit. And the field mouse was filled with wonder and blessed him with all his heart, cursing his own lot. Just as they were preparing to start their meal, a man suddenly opened the door. Alarmed by the noise, the mice rushed fearfully into the crevices. Then, as they crept out again to taste some dried figs, someone else came into the room and started looking for something. So they again rushed down the holes to hide. Then the field mouse, forgetting his hunger, sighed and said to his friend, "Farewell, my friend. You can eat your fill and be glad of heart, but at the price of 1,000 fears and dangers. I, poor little thing, will go on living by nibbling barley and corn without fear or suspicion of anyone." This fable shows that one should live simply and free from passion instead of luxuriously in fear and dread. It's a good one. The Bat, the Bramble, and the Gull. The Bat, the Bramble, and the Gull met up with the intention of doing a bit of trading together. The Bat went out and borrowed some money to fund the enterprise. The Bramble contributed a lot of cloth to be sold, and the Gull brought a large supply of copper to sell. Then they set sail to go trading, but a violent storm arose, which capsized their ship, and all the cargo was lost. They were able to save nothing but themselves from the shipwreck. Ever since that time, the Gull has searched the seashore to see if any of his copper might be washed up somewhere. The Bat, fearing his creditors, dare not go out by day and only feeds at night. And the Bramble clutches the clothes of all those who pass by, hoping to recognize a familiar piece of material. This fable shows that we always return to those things in which we have a stake. The Woodcutter and the Hermes. A woodcutter who was chopping wood on the banks of a river had lost his axe. Not knowing what to do, he sat himself down on the bank and wept. The god Hermes, learning the cause of his distress, took pity on him. Hermes plunged into the river, brought out a golden axe, and asked the woodcutter if this were the one which he had lost. The man said no, that wasn't the one. So Hermes dived back in again, and this time he produced a silver axe. But the woodcutter said no, that wasn't his axe either. Hermes plunged in a third time and brought him his own axe. The man said yes, indeed, this was the very axe which he had lost. Then Hermes, charmed by his honesty, gave him all three. Returning to his friends, the woodcutter told them about his adventure. One of them took it into his head to get himself some axes as well. So he set off for the riverbank, threw his axe into the current deliberately, and set and then sat down in tears. Then Hermes appeared to him also, and learning the cause of the tears, he dived in and brought him to a golden axe, asking if it were the one which he had lost. The man, all joyful, cried out, "Yes, it is indeed the one." But the god, horrified at such effrontery, not only withheld the golden axe, but didn't return the man's own. This fable shows that God favors honest people, but are hostile to the dishonest. All right, the ass carrying salt. An ass with a load of salt was crossing a stream. He slipped and fell into the water. Then the salt dissolved, and when he got up, his load was lighter than before. So he was delighted another time when he arrived at the bank of a stream with a load of sponges. He thought that if he fell into the water again, when he got up, the load would be lighter. So he slipped on purpose. But of course, the sponges swelled up with the water, and the ass was unable to get up again. So he drowned and perished. Thus, it is sometimes that people don't suspect that it is their own tricks which land them in disaster. The ass, the cock, and the lion. One day an ass and a cockerel were feeding together when a lion attacked the ass. The cockerel let out a loud crow, and the lion fled, for lions are afraid of the sound of a cock crowing. The ass, imagining that the lion was fleeing because of him, did not hesitate to rush after him. When he had pursued the lion for about the distance where a cock's crow can no longer be heard, the lion turned round and devoured him. And he was dying, the ass brayed, "What an unfortunate and stupid fellow I am! Why did I, who was not born to warlike parents, set out to fight?" This fable shows that the enemy is often portrayed as of no consequence, but when we attack him, he destroys us. All right, the last two. The ass and the lapdog, or the dog and its master. There was a man who owned a Maltese lapdog and an ass. He was always playing with the dog. When he dined out, he would bring back tidbits and throw them to the dog when it rushed up, wagging its tail. The ass was jealous of this and one day trotted up and started frisking around his master. But this resulted in the man getting a kick in the foot, and he grew very angry. So he drove the ass with a stick back to its manger where he tied it up. This fable shows that we are not all made to do the same things. All right. The ass who was taken for a lion. An ass clothed in a skin of a lion passed himself off in the eyes of everyone as a lion and made everyone flee from him, both men and animals. But the wind came along and blew off the lion's skin, leaving him naked and exposed. Everyone then fell upon him when they saw this and beat him with sticks and clubs. Be poor and ordinary. Don't have pretensions to wealth, or you will be exposed to ridicule and danger, for we cannot adapt ourselves to that which is alien to us. All right, I hope you enjoyed the stories. I hope you have a wonderful day. Take care. Bye.